place looks deserted. Guess all the survivors must have evacuated already. All that's left here are signs of devastation. Could Farina really be here? Let's try to find her as soon as possible. That's Farina, right over there. She really is here all on her own.
Should I just... What was meant to happen did happen after all. Everyone's dead. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Give up, Farina. There's no point in holding... I'm sorry. But what can I even do other than to repeat meaningless... Who's that?
Don't worry, Farina, it's just us.
So...
Farina, you were crying just now, weren't you?
What do you mean, tear stains? Who did that uncivilized rabble think they were? Disturbing they even dare to tout their Archon! I must teach them a lesson. Oh, and I'm sure Nivelette and those people from the Mart... Of course not!
Hey, there she is! The Hydro Archon's over there! Quick, after her!
Farina, those people seem to be after you.
They are? They're just some rabid fans who want to cut the line because they haven't been able to meet me in person, aren't they? That's against the rules. I can't let them get their way.
Farina just ran off! Quick, we have to catch up with her! This should be the place, right? Hey, Farina! There's a good hiding spot over here. Quick, come to Paimon before the rest of them catch up to you.
What is this?
Hurry, they're almost here.
Fine. I suppose haste is warranted. Lead the way. I'm so tired. I totally thought they had caught me. No, I mean, I merely gave in to the sheer enthusiasm they displayed. You're right.
Yep, that's a good girl.
What's happening? The ground's shaking. Is it an earthquake?
Yeah, A quake of this kind preceded the flooding in Poisson, didn't it?
It can't be. It's happening again.
Well, there's no need to worry too much about that. Neverlette's made some emergency plans so the...
Yeah, I hope you're right. But the people of Poisson, they've already... It's true. I've been investigating the prophecy for hundreds of years. I once had informants all over Tevat, searching for clues and feeding information back. I've tried all kinds of ways, too, to hold back the sea. But all my efforts proved to be futile. We cannot make an enemy of the divine. No matter what we do, the will of the heavenly principles will have its... Give up. I've thought about giving up so many times. Especially after we almost lost Poisson. Fate is really unreasonable, isn't it? It has no heart and obeys no rules. But just now, it all became clear to me. I still don't have the right to come to terms with fate as long as the final moment hasn't come. It's still not too late. Don't worry. I will keep hope alive for everyone until the very end. Well, that's enough for now. I got the impulse to play this. Don't take any of what I just said seriously. How could I possibly...
Come on! Paimon could have sworn...
Share my burden. That's impossible. It was fated right from the start that... A witness. Yes. And if Tevat is, in its entirety, a show on a stage, then you're just... If that's the...
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes my opening performance. Now, without further ado, we may proceed to the trial of...
So this is what it is. Yes, do not forget, however, that I am Focalor, the...
May I interpret these words as your refusal to stand trial? In that case, you will have the opportunity to defend your honor through a
You would draw your blade against a god? I see. It seems like you have made up your mind.
Paimon can't believe it.
What the heck is going on? Did I just see an...
Wow, how utterly humiliating.
Lady Farina, what is the meaning of this?
would seem that there has been a misunderstanding. To be clear, the raising of both hands is—
Looking for excuses again, huh?
I raised my hands just now to indicate my acceptance of the— I will admit that I've been running away for a long time. I'm sorry, everyone. I was unable to protect— You are not the only ones to be disappointed in me. But now, it is time for the Hydro Archon to show you her courage and resolve. I, Farina, will use this trial to show the world the true meaning of justice! This time, I will protect you. Applaud and rejoice. One of the most— Mark my words. This shall be one of the most exhilarating and brilliant shows ever to grace the stage of Fontaine!
Woohoo!
Oh, now we're making history!
Why does it feel like Farina just took over the whole thing? Also, even though she's still acting super dramatic, she is taking this seriously this time, right?
All right, then. Who will be my opponent in this trial?
The court asks the prosecutor to please take the stand.
Is that so? Very well. Then please speak, witness of Tivat. Also, please allow me to ask, as a final question before the trial, just how much work did you do to
Well, we did do a lot of prep after the meeting that day.
I can go over the tasks assigned to the Spina di Rosula, since they were rather straightforward.
Navia, the president of the Spina di Rosula.
Most of the people who participated in the disturbance this morning were my subordinates. They changed into plain clothes and came to the Opera House as regular audience members. The people's resentment against their Archon has been building as more and more of the prophecy is fulfilled. Moreover, according to our understanding and analysis of you, when something like that occurred, you would likely— So, we arranged for a second group to lie in wait.
So, you mean the ones who scoured—
And their goal was to force you to step into the giant magic box so you may personally participate in the greatest
That's right. That house was a magic box, rather than someone's residence.
As the super ultimate version of the setup that I used when I first, the volume of the box was increased by a whole order of magnitude, and the distance it traversed was the entire gap between Poisson was an Archon instead of a human. My thanks, Farina. Without your help, we could never have pulled off—
You're welcome?
Of course, this performance was only made possible with Father's support. The House of the— We had to select a location, construct the giant magic box, dig a tunnel, and open up a path through the—
So, in other words, the—
That's right. It wasn't a sign of another disaster to come.
Then, I can guess Nervilette and Cloran's parts. You gathered a crowd, prepared a stage, and made sure that the champion duelist would be immediately ready for a fight. Also that as soon as I appeared on the stage, the trial may commence without a hitch.
Yes, that is correct.
Well, Clorand, I must commend you for your courage.
Thank you.
As for you, Traveler, I suppose your role was to keep me distracted. You'd make sure that I didn't notice anything amiss before revealing yourself as my prosecutor once we'd arrived onto the stage. Oh? Is that so? Then It's fine. It matters not. The stage is already set, so there's no reason to disappoint the audience. Let's see this trial through to the very end.
Madam Prosecutor, please allow me to pass this along. This is a document that Miss Charlotte applied for and received permission to share with you during the trial. According to...
Huh? Charlotte wanted to give us something? Oh, so she's here too! Hey, Charlotte! Oh, let Paimon see. Isn't this the exclusive interview that she... Wait, then that means this document is a... So in other words, we can refer to this anthology of evidence every time we want... Let's quickly confirm the information in it. Just think of it as a refresher, alright?
You defeated the Hydro Archon in the very first duel you took part in at the words of someone as extraordinary as a witch can probably...
The prosecution and the defense are both in position. The trial shall now begin.
Oh, come on, Nervylette. There's no need to repeat. Just fast forward to the part where the prosecution lays out my offense. Of course, it is only natural for humans to struggle to understand the...
That's true, but my charge here is unrelated to your conduct as an Archon. Instead, I would like to charge you as a fraud who's never been the Archon in the first...
Wait, what was that? Lady Farina's a fraud?
Hey, I came here thinking that we were going to try the Hydro Archon for forsaking her duty, but...
Charge accepted. Lady Farina, do you plead guilty to the charge? Lady Farina.
I plead not guilty. How can I be guilty? There is no way that I, Focalor, otherwise known as Farina de Fontaine, a member of the Seven and the Regina of all waters, kindreds, peoples, and laws of Fontaine.
Yeah, even though Lady Farina can be rather eccentric, isn't...
Yeah, I've never questioned her identity either. Sure,
I have cause to believe that common sense will prevail in this case. Many of the members of the audience have known me as the Hydro Archon ever since they were born. There would be no... See? Even the Oratrice has decided to show me its favor. Are you sure you want to commit? If you wish to drop the case, I can promise you as the God of Justice that you will not have to face...
An argument with near impossible odds, huh? You have to not only refute for
Well, I tried to give you the chance to surrender. If you must persist, then let me... And if I was not the Archon, then how did I manage to live for...
That doesn't sound right. Paimon doesn't... First of all, you may be a member of another long-lived race, which would allow you...
Who gave you that idea? Was it the knave?
A curse. I once thought it possible that the aura of an arc, but in light of this claim, perhaps what I sensed was not your divinity, but a curse, huh?
Neverlet sensed it too, huh?
Lady Farina is actually a human?
Well, it is true that it's extremely difficult to tell humans...
don't start celebrating too early now. Even if I have been carrying a curse like you said, how does that prove that I am mere— Besides, everyone knows that the main difference between a human and a god— For centuries, manifestations of my authority have served the nation of Fontaine. One need only to turn their eyes towards the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinal in this—
That doesn't sound right. You tried to reference the Oratrice. But weren't you as confused as all the rest of us when the Oratrice declared Child to be guilty?
Didn't I make myself clear at the time? The decisions of the gods are naturally difficult for humans to—
Lady Farina, I believe a reminder of your current while the court is in session, the principles of justice and the law, you will prove yourself unable to defend against the prosecution's charges if you continue to withhold—
I never thought you'd use that kind of rhetoric.
That was no trick of rhetoric, Lady Farina. I've merely reiterated—
So, you neither knew why Child was declared guilty, nor did you, instead of having been created by you, the manifestations of authority—
The real Hydro Archon. Well, now you're really losing me. It is true that I did not know why the Oratrice gave out a guilty verdict that day. But the Oratrice handed out that verdict unilaterally. And it has— You can't argue that just because a divine creation is flawed, that the—
She's still throwing out all kinds of excuses. Seems like she's confident that we—
My power as an Archon.
If that poses a concern, I'm prepared to
You don't need to go that far.
Aren't you the Hydro Archon? Or—
Indemnitium! Yes! It's all because of Indemnitium! All Archons. Thus did I give up all of my divine power to provide everyone with energy.
Isn't that a huge stretch?
Yeah, no matter how generous an Archon can be, how could they give up all their power? Can a god with no power even still be called a god?
It seems like nobody's buying Farina's excuse.
Hey, come now, everyone. Please don't stare at me as if I was a liar. I'm still the same Farina you knew, right? The one that— Please, you've got to believe me.
If what the prosecutor said is true, she really has committed a grave offense.
Did she deceive all of us? And all of our parents and grandparents too? And all of our
Enough! That's enough. Tell me then, if I'm not the real Hydro, if you have no evidence of another Hydro Archon's existence.
Wow, she came up with yet another argument. How can we refute her now? That doesn't sound right. Paimon doesn't— It has been established that all Fontanians can dissolve in water from the primordial—
Since you insist on claiming to be a god and not a human, then there's a method that you can use right—
Miss Navia, please apply to serve as a temporary attorney for the prosecution before addressing the court.
Super sorry, Monsieur Chief Justice. I swear this really will be the— Now, I've brought some seawater from Poisson. As everyone knows, a massive— including those of some of my closest friends. So, Miss Farina, if we are to believe that you are indeed the real Hydro Archon, touching the seawater would have no effect on you. But, if you don't dare to touch it, then we would have basically proved the reverse. Oh, and I must remind you that after the disaster at Poisson, nobody wants to see any— I do hope you'll act prudently and choose the simpler path of—
Navia from the Spina di Rasula. The Spina has governed Poisson for many years. I guess her suggestion is valid.
If Lady Farina is indeed just a human, she's probably Fontanian like all the rest of us. Would she really dare to try?
Lady Farina, this test has been unilaterally proposed by the prosecution. As it falls outside the realm of standard court proceedings, you possess the right to declare.
Well, of course he had to tell her that. But refusing to participate is basically the same as a
She's just staring at the water without saying a single word. It really does seem like she's quite terrified of it. That could only mean...
What's going on? Is she really planning to... that's not what we...
Due to the inherent risk of the test, Lady Farina, you may...
Hey!
I'm fine! Look at me, everyone! Will you believe me now? I really am your Archon!
Miss Siegewing? If you're present, Miss Siegewing, please come forward.
Siegewing?
Don't be nervous. It'll just take a few seconds. That should be...
Please announce the results of your evaluation to the court.
As everyone doubtlessly saw, Miss Farina she was experiencing the adverse effects of exposure to...
Thank you, Miss Siegewing. Lady Farina, you may return to the defendant's stand.
Oh, wait. What did she just say? I didn't get dissolved. Shouldn't that be enough to prove my
Well, considering your tendency to run from your problems, we did originally prepare... However, after extensive discussion, we exchanged it for a sample that is not concentrated enough to... We don't want anyone else to lose their life to the sea.
Yeah, so out of regard for Farina's life, you secured a low-concentration sample. It's a great thing that the direct sample wasn't actually used. Farina could have...
I can't believe... You... Listen to me, everyone! Please don't think about it! How can you conclusively prove that an arc also, if I was really just a human... Please, anyone, just listen to me! I swear, I really am your Archon!
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway anyone. The odds are just too...
With all the things that have been said, Paimon doesn't think there's any way left for Farina to win.
I believe the time for arguments and presentation of evidence has come to an end. If there are no objections, we will move on to the final judgment.
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway anyone. She's too stacked against her now.
In my capacity as Chief Justice, I shall now render judgment on Farina's misrepresentation of herself as the Archon of Fontaine. As a human who knowingly deceived her fellow citizens, Farina is... guilty. We shall now turn to the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinale to render the final verdict on the... According to the judgment of the oratrice mécanique d'analyse cardinale, Farina is...
Well, what's wrong? What's the oratrice's verdict?
No, the oratrice also displays a guilty verdict.
Isn't that correct then?
However, the exact wording of the verdict is thus: the Hydro to be punished via the death sentence.
That's actually one of the available sentences? I've always thought that it was just a myth.
The one and only time the death sentence has been handed out at the court, and it's been given to the very person we've worshipped as the...
Farina's been sentenced to death by the oratrice? We just wanted to use the trial to show her the seriousness of things so she'd tell us the truth.
This outcome is indeed quite strange. According to Fontaine's current definitions of justice, as well as its recommendations for criminal sentences, is this sentence really appropriate for the crimes that have been committed?
Yeah! Even Fache wasn't sentenced to death by the oratrice.
Indeed. Not only is Farina's sentence overly excessive, the very point of our trial today was also to prove that Farina has never been the Hydro Archon. But now, the oratrice seems to have deliberately invoked the title of the Hydro Archon. What does this mean?
Excuse me, if I may interrupt. Is the trial still going?
Fremine! You finally made it. I assume this means you've...
Any mission Father assigns to me will always be top priority.
Is that the first prophecy slate? Huh. So the knave privately arranged for Fremine to try and find the missing slate.
I looked everywhere and finally found it at the bottom of the sea. It took me a long... But has the trial already concluded? Then...
Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Fremine. Please allow me to review the record left on the slate. Traveler, I believe that you have already seen the other existing slates. I would like you to come here and...
Huh? So what do you see? What is it?
I believe I have now made sense of the Hydro Archon's crime. It has to do with Fontaine's lost...
Huh? Isn't the Hydro Archon just guilty of deceiving her people? Oh, wait, no, that's Farina, and we've already proven that she's not the Hydro Archon. So when you say Hydro Archon, do you mean the real Hydro Archon we've been...
In truth, everything that you've encountered in Fontaine up until this point can be traced back to... However, I'm uncertain as to how much sense they currently make to you.
Okay, let's try to recall the contents of the other 3 stone slates. Paimon will... The first stone slate describes what you just said. It seems to show the previous Hydro Archon using her divine power, and then the Oceanids turn it. Does that mean that Fontanians are transformed Oceanids? Oh, Paimon wasn't expecting. The second stone slate shows Celestia floating in the sky, and the Hydro Archon and her people worshipping it. This must be the point when the Hydro Archon and the Fontanians were branded with their original sin. Does this mean that the third slate shows the Hydro Archon sinking into the sea surrounded by many people? Huh. That reminds Paimon, didn't we also watch that happen to someone else? Well, the first slate is the prophecy the Fontanians have been talking about. People dissolving into the sea, the Hydro Archon. We didn't believe that such a crazy disaster could happen at first, did we? But after that incident, it was...
We know from the case of the serial disappearances of young women that and the first stone slate tells us that long ago the Hydro... This might be the reason that Fontanians can dissolve. Perhaps what is about to take place has all happened before. The true sin of the Hydro Archon that Nervilette mentioned, and the original sin cast down on the people of Fontaine by... It's not as simple as falling into the sea. When Navia fell into the sea, her consciousness was subjected to judgment. The stone slates. The prophecy from the stone slates found its way into society. The fortress of Meropide was nearly flooded with primordial seawater, which we know can cause fun. If we hadn't dealt with it in time, things could have gone very bad.
They'll dissolve into the primordial sea but won't cease to exist. Their essence will flow in the seawater. The Hydro Archon was sentenced to death in court, shocking everyone present. Navia fell into the water inside those ruins, and she nearly dissolved. She was surrounded by the people of Poisson in a court within her consciousness. The eruption of the primordial sea at the fortress of Meropide was the surest sign that the prophecy was... The stone slate's content can all be verified by recent... now, so that's how you can make sense of it. But then it feels like we're going to have to share some truly shocking revelations.
Let's hear them.
Incredible! Linny, did you hear that?
We're not real humans.
All Fontanians were originally created by the late previous Hydro Archon. With Oceanid, the evidence for that can be found in how only Fontanians could dissolve in primordial seawater, and how all the girls Vacher did. Oh, and according to Navia, when she was about to get dissolved, she also saw everyone gathered around for it.
Indeed.
Yeah, and it follows from the content of the first slate that she probably anchored. That could also explain why the Oratrice judged the Hydro Archon to be...
The Hydro Archon's true sin was creating...
And yet, after many hundreds of years, the Hydro Archon's creations have turned around to try to judge the...
Yeah! Isn't the image here just like when Navia fell into the sea? So wouldn't it be trying to show the image of the Hydro Archon also falling into the sea once the prophecy... In the end, the people will all be dissolved into the waters, and only the Hydro Archon will remain... Did Paimon get all that right?
You've made some keen deductions. I must say, given how much you still don't know, however, while you were able to decode all the information on the slates, when we were at the ruins, I tried to decipher the hidden information recorded in the slates. Now that the slate collection is complete, I shall make another attempt to decipher the narrative record.
Did you get it?
I believe I should share this truth not only with you, but with all the people of Fontaine as well. I will try to briefly summarize it for you. Your hypotheses regarding the origin of Fontainians and the sin of the Hydro Archon were both correct. In the Fontaine of old, the previous Hydro Archon sensed the yearning of her Oceanid familiars for life on land. The Oceanids were enamored with the beauty and romanticism of human beings, and wishing to have those experiences for themselves, expressed to the Hydro Archon. However, even though water as an element is intricately linked with the power of life, the Hydro Archon, as one of the seven, did not possess the authority to create a new form of human life. Not one to give in, she eventually found a way to create permanent humanoid bodies for her familiars by appropriating the power of this planet's primordial sea. She poured primordial seawater into the Oceanids' blood vessels, creating humanoid mimics in the process. But if Fontainians were to ever come into direct contact with water from the primordial sea, the power within their bodies would escape these artificial... Of course, the Hydro Archon never received permission from the heavenly principles to create a new human race. And thus, the Hydro Archon and all of her creations came to shoulder the original sin of appropriating the power of the primordial sea. That is the true history of how the people of Fontaine first came into being.
So we were all Oceanids.
That's way too much information for me. I think I'm just going to pretend that I never heard a single... Wait, but if that's the truth, we can't let the Hydro Archon be sentenced to death?
This really might be too much information for your regular Fontaine.
Alas, your hypothesis regarding the third and fourth stone slates was inaccurate. The slates' respective positions are, in fact, correct. A key point of the visual on the third slate is how all the individuals depicted in the water are humans rather than Oceanids. They have not been dissolved, which implies that the water depicted in this slate is not water from the primordial sea. The nation of Fontaine is the nation of Hydro, as well as the nation of trials and justice. Instead of being the literal element, the water in the scene symbolizes judgment and justice. You may also recall Navia's experience. When she fell into the sea, her consciousness was surrounded by that of many others who intended to... Therefore, the meaning of the third slate is... that the people of Fontaine shall try the Hydro Archon at the court of... Yes, it refers to our present situation.
I think I'm following now. So, what you're saying is, even though we decided to put on this trial to avoid fulfilling the prophecy, in truth, everything we've done has happened exactly as the
What should we do?
Huh. No matter what, the prophecy will be fulfilled.
If that's the case, does that mean the scene in the fourth slate will also be fulfilled soon?
Traveler, I would like to point out another small fallacy in your deductions. About the fourth slate, you probably thought that the eruption of primordial seawater beneath... However, I believe that rather than being a sure sign, that eruption could in fact only be a small warning of something far worse to come. As for the root cause of the catastrophe, I believe you've already encountered it once before. This eruption was just a small warning of the things to come. We must find the root cause of the...
That doesn't sound quite... That doesn't sound...
It was both dream and reality.
If we're talking about a true culprit that could
The truth, the original sin.
It's way too close! How did that thing just burst into the opera house? Wait, was that the huge whale you saw in your dream?
So we've met it at last. I understand very well why it has chosen to make an appearance here. That whale does not belong to Teyvat. It is a monster that has traversed the stars, weeping. It has been greedily consuming the energy from the planet's primordial sea, using it to grow. That is the main... And once it has finished consuming all of the energy contained within the sea...
You said that when the Hydro Archon first created Fontanians out of Ocean...
Precisely. That whale finds the blood of Fontanians nigh impossible. Therefore, when it left the primordial sea, it decided to make its next stop a packed opera house full of food.
We just barely managed to push it back, right? In that case, won't it come back to target the people again once it's managed to recover its strength?
That is correct. Indeed, it is more accurate to say that we should thank that Harbinger for buying us some time. From the way he looked, he must have been fighting the creature for quite...
That battle maniac! We've always known that he had a special connection with that whale. Anyway, now that we know that this whale is the actual cause of the disaster recorded in the prophecy...
It is too late. It had already absorbed too much of the primordial sea's energy before we could notice it. At this point, even if the entirety of Teyvat were to be destroyed, it could still survive and swim off towards some other world.
That's not something I will accept. We've already done everything we can, and we even found the true culprit. We've come so far. You can't just tell me that the...
Indeed, that's not how a grand performance should end.
I'll fight it to the end, no matter what.
So the prophecy will be fulfilled no matter what, huh?
The prophecy. Yes, what has been prophesied will be fulfilled. You may view such things as the history of the future. Just as prophecies are usually only the future as seen from the... Ultimately, fate shall serve as your only guide, no matter what will happen in Teyvat.
What's happening with the oratories?
I believe it is preparing to carry out the death sentence.
Marina!
No, I still need answers!
You...
Sorry. That shocked expression on your...
You are not Farina.
Ah, the sweet sound of bewilderment. Marvelous. A sure sign that—
Fusalo, why did you deceive us?
Oh, that wasn't my goal, of course. Goodness, no. But I had to fool everyone. The heavenly principles.
Deceiving the heavenly principles?
It's all because of that pernicious prophecy. Dreadful, wasn't it? Everyone doomed to dissolve. Fontaine condemned to be flooded. One was not amused. In fact, one was positively bemused when that problem was thrust upon me by my— She knew full well that the prophecy would surely come to pass. And as one of the seven, she also knew full well that one defies the heavenly principles at one's peril. So yes, as you have no doubt surmised, it was a rather— I spent a terribly long time mulling it over, alone on the ocean floor. I had to outwit the heavenly principles, allow the prophecy to be fulfilled. I'm a genius, I know. I can only assume that's why Egeria— Although, looking back now, it was hardly the inheritance one dreams of. Between the task of saving the— But one can only play the hand one is dealt. I did not choose this, any more than I chose to—
So you were also once one of the Oceanids, transformed into a human by Egeria—
Yes, I was. I always dreamed of becoming human. And I still do, even now. After becoming a god, I separated my divinity from my body and spirit, leaving behind only a self that was as naive and bewildered as my past. The me you see before you now is that divinity. And the human— She could feel joy, sorrow, and everything in between. She could be as if her strengths were of a kind only a human could possess. But in my eyes, Furina's humanity was what made her perfect. She was perfectly human. Anyway, so then I cursed her. All part of the plan, of course. The plan to deceive the heavenly principles. Do you still remember the final scene of the prophecy? In order that the prophecy might appear fulfilled, under the curse I placed on her. So long as I, Focalor's divinity, continued to exist, she could not die. But nor was she— Instead, she was forced to take the stage in the opera house. I suppose now you probably understand why your court is called the Opera Epiclese.
But Furina is only human. Even though she has had a long life, her mind is no stronger than that of any other ordinary human being. I cannot begin to fathom what she has had to endure. It must have been
It has indeed. And although she is, in a sense, me, and it's been 500 years. And all along, she's been playing her part in the most unimaginably long, unbearably lonely, and agonizingly painful—